Welcome back to the Guardian Film Show, surfing the line between reality and fiction to map out a post-election landscape in which nothing is as it seems. Be warned that this week's show contains slippery double agents, actors playing versions of themselves, and print journalists pretending to be TV presenters, on which note I should probably add that you can skip to the films of your choice on the boxes below. Here come the new releases. The girls of the hood raise a ruckus in the Parisian coming-of-age drama Girlhood. There's a mole at MI5 HQ in Spooks, The Greater Good.
Get in.
And Jon Stewart goes behind the headlines in the prison thriller Rosewater.
Sir, can you tell me why I'm here?
That's what happened to foreign spies caught on Iranian soil.
First up, Top 5, in which a successful comic plays a successful comic, and in doing so learns and gives important life lessons. Take your seats for a voyage around Chris Rock.
Where's my kiss?
Do we have to do this on camera? Let's just get off camera.
Let's go back in the car. Not on camera, it doesn't exist.
Andre Allen is through being funny and he wants to stay sober. Here he is, rattling through New York with a journalist in tow. She wants to know about the real Andre Allen, and just maybe he does too.
Okay, nothing's changed.
Yes.
Some things never change.
Thank God things
Hey,
change.
look at this. Black man trying to get a cab in New York City. Ha ha, watch this bullshit. Black man trying to get a cab. Look at this. Ha ha, taxi, taxi. Taxi, taxi, yeah!
On the couch, it's Peter Bradshaw and Catherine Shoard. Peter, is this Andre Allen or is this Chris Rock? I'm hopelessly confused.
It's Chris Rock. I mean, it's absolutely Chris Rock. It's very, very indulgent. It's often very, very funny, but very, very indulgent at the same time.
Yeah.
And there are moments of sentimentality which I think don't work, and there are lots of narrative contrivances which don't work.
Because it's not quite satire, is
No,
it?
it's not exactly satire. It's a massive selfie, really, for Chris Rock. But Chris Rock is he's a fascinating guy. He's a very, very funny man. He just has funny bones. Everything he does is sort of funny. And the film is brilliant when he just riffs. What he can't do is act, basically. He can't, the business of acting and reacting and being seen to change as a result of events.
Yeah.
No, that Chris Rock won't do that. But he just comes on, he's utterly relaxed, and he riffs, and he rolls with it.
Catherine, it's also a film about a movie star who falls in love with a journalist who's sent to interview him, which is obviously something that we've had to deal with on a daily basis in our own working lives. Did all the little details ring true for you, though?
Not really. I mean, I'm not sure it ruined the film for me, but yeah, I mean, the journalistic experience here is unusual. She has the whole day with him.
She forgets her recorder and says, "Oh, I haven't got my recorder. Come back to my apartment."
Come back to my, and then he hangs down and looks at the pictures on the wall, stuff like that. It's amazing.
You usually get 20 minutes if you're very, very lucky. The strand about her boyfriend feels very cheap and just a punchline, really.
And borderline homophobic?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Definitely.
But, you know,
but broad.
Such a weird mix, this film, because it's broad, yet also quite sort of classy and sophisticated. It's got those two things together. I mean, there's an amazing post-coital shot of a bed that is a huge laugh, and it's very, very broad.
And it's a huge laugh, though. It is an absolute sledgehammer laugh. It really is.
When it has that loose-limbed charm, it's very, very enjoyable.
Unfortunately, as ill fortune would have it, Birdman was doing some of the same sorts of things.
Yeah.
And doing so with a great deal more elan and originality and distinctiveness.
And bite.
And this was funny, but what you're left with are 2 or 3 huge moments, but also an awful lot of big-name star cameos clearly called in as huge favours. I mean, to get Jerry Seinfeld in to do those gags, it's funny, but you can tell that's a massive A-lister kind of moment that we're seeing there. The sheer prestige transaction that you can see has happened doesn't quite translate into laughs or dramatic impact.
Hey, what's up? This is Andre Allen. When I listen to satellite radio, I listen to Sirius Hits 1.
Just, just put a little stank on it.
Stank.
Stank.
Stank?
Give it stank.
Okay, I don't really know what you mean. Could you show me?
You're the funny, okay, all right, it's like, hey, this is Andre Allen. And when I listen to satellite radio, whoa, I listen to Sirius Hits 1. Woo! Nice and funny. Go!
What's up, motherfuckers?
Chris Rock, maybe, providing us with his top 5. And after all that celebrity tat and millionaire angst, you may be in the need of a little corrective. Girlhood, happily, offers precisely that.
Wow! Je te parle là!
Ça m'intéresse pas.
Ah ouais, ça m'intéresse pas. Tu fais ce que tu veux, hein. C'est pas ce que tu rates. Allez, casse-toi.
Writer-director Celine Sciamma points the way to the impoverished suburbs of Paris and rustles up a tale of female friendship, tribal loyalties and adolescent transformations. The girls are free to change their names and embrace the moment, at least until the adult world comes crashing in. Catherine, Girlhood better than Boyhood?
Oh, no, not quite. No, it's not as good as Boyhood, but it's bloody good. I haven't actually seen any of the director's previous work. This is fantastically fresh and unjudgmental and relaxed and interesting and moving in a way that you're just not anticipating. It's a very slow build and it takes you a while to get into it.
Peter, did you like it?
I liked it very much. It's similar to Celine Sciamma's previous works, which are about sexual identity and sort of female solidarity and the dynamics of a female relationship.
Yeah.
But they were much kind of more delicate flowers, those films. They were more auteurist and more obviously elegant and wrought, whereas this is a big, powerful surge of badass energy that just punches out of the screen from the very word go, with that fantastic American football scene. And I think the very, very clever scene that follows it, as you know, they go home afterwards with their armour taken off. You can see all that girl power tragically draining away, and then you see it coming back as Mariem, who gets to be called Vic, short for Victoire. She gets to be part of this girl gang because this girl gang has got a vacancy for a 4th member for reasons which become clear later on. And this is a very good performance by Khadija Touré, who's a newcomer, a real star, and she has got natural charisma and an address to the camera which is absolutely brilliant. So, I mean, there's an awful lot going on in this movie, and it has something to say about what happens when you withhold your status as a girlfriend from boys. You instead, you kind of gang up with another section of girls. What that means, does that mean you've accumulated any capital? When you finally go out with someone, does that mean it's completely dissipated? And also, I think there are fantastic scenes where she plays FIFA, and that's really interesting, because usually playing FIFA can be a real cliche, a kind of aimless underclass guy doing nothing all day playing FIFA, whereas Sciamma
becomes kind of sacrament.
It does, yeah, but Sciamma says no, FIFA is very important. It's the only time where she gets to have a level playing field with these guys, which she doesn't have actually playing American football because it has to be an all-girl thing. But she can, if anybody will let her, beat a boy at FIFA. And this is actually very interesting.
Some sort of terrifying fight scenes in there as well, which really capture that kind of awful thing of the crowd huddling around to see this kind of fight. That reminds you of your own school days. Yeah,
it's my own life every time.
Certainly mine, darling. Yes.
You know, I've seen girl gangs on the tube like that and being a bit intimidated and being a bit annoyed by their sodcasting and all that, and you know, being a bit frightened by the scrapping in a very pathetic 30-something white girl way. So yeah, there's
just
something...
tell me you work at the Guardian. Fine.
I hold it up.
That'll diffuse the situation, won't it?
Shine bright like a diamond.
So shine bright tonight, you and I, we're beautiful like diamonds in the sky.
The rousing, heartfelt Girlhood there. And now our search for something good brings us to The Greater Good, an espionage thriller spun out of the hit BBC series and awash with spies and terrorists and spies who might be terrorists. This is the world of Spooks.
Terrorist leader Adam Qasim has escaped from MI5 custody.
A notorious jihadist has fled MI5 custody and is now hell-bent on blowing up London. But who let him slip free? And who's at the centre of this infernal spiderweb? Stars Kit Harington and Peter Firth may just have embarked on a mission impossible.
If they can't stop him, it'll be on you. This is bigger than Qasim. Well, someone wants to destroy the service itself.
Peter, in terms of feature spin-offs from British TV shows, is this better or worse than the On the Buses movie?
I think it's better. Let's be fair. What I liked about this is it has that John le Carré plus Homeland thing going on, which I think is clever and shrewd. I think the problem with it is that it has the box set addiction to twist, twist, counter twist, counter twist, and on telly, because you've got enough space to spread it out, it doesn't look ridiculous. But with just under 2 hours, you've heard so many twists, it just looks absurd. Lots of tense dialogue, and then suddenly they're off like this. They're sprinting into the wild beyond it and having a fight, and then it's back to some tense slot-mouthed dialogue, which is absolutely ridiculous, and then they're off sprinting again. It's a great opening sequence. I think that was absolutely terrific, and that when that's played out, I thought, wow, this is going to be great. This is going to give Spectre a run for its money. This looks very, very cool. And I love Tuppence Middleton as the demure agent who's got this edge of steel and might go a bit too far and disregard her agents telling her to stand down, stand down. I love all that stuff. But then, I don't know, it just looks ridiculous. I mean, Peter Firth, he's an interesting actor. The idea that he's Sir Harry Pierce, the enigmatic, slightly mad, disgraced spy chief who goes rogue, and Kit Harington as the thoroughly bestubbled and smouldering guy who has to bring him in. And with the idea that he will reveal to him what happened in Berlin. I mean, what happened in Berlin? Well, I'm still waiting to hear that, incidentally.
That's the sequel.
That's
Spooks, what happened in Berlin.
Oh, God. I mean, as I say, I love a bit of Tinker Tailor. I love a bit of Who's the Mole at the top reaches of the service. I love a bit of all that. But if you're going to do that, you have to hear the sea of faith withdrawing from the British Empire in the way that Le Carré allowed you to do the long, agonising kind of ennui of disenchantment.
The
disillusionment. Whereas this tries to accelerate all the disillusionment. Zoom, 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 and now we're going to have a punch-up. And now we're going to go back to being disillusioned a bit. And now we're going to have a punch-up.
You can't have instant disillusionment.
You can't have instant, no, you can't. And you can't just solve it with a massive, sexy kind of punch-up. It didn't quite work for me, no.
Catherine, I'm guessing that you weren't a fan either.
Well, no, I thought it was worse actually than Peter. I mean, those dialogue scenes are absolutely dreadful. I mean, the direction is pure telly, so it feels like they're in Casualty with all the stilted pauses and the sort of, turnaways. And Tim McInnery in it, I mean, blimey,
yeah, he was doing a lot of Blackadder stuff. There's a lot of Blackadder stuff he's doing.
And Jennifer Ellie it's endlessly poised and sort of like she's on a trolley or something.
You lost their number one most wanted. For goodness sake. The Americans withdraw their support. Our entire intelligence apparatus will completely collapse.
Well, you don't have to tell me.
I just thought it was appallingly badly directed, actually. I mean, really did. I thought some of those scenes were just clunky and beyond belief. And you'd have it, and they'd sort of leave the scene where you should cut and then cut it off. But instead you just have all the people sort of stood there, apparently waiting for the cut. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I was shocked by the ineptitude of that. I thought it was a bit rubbish, really.
Kit Harington running towards a dark and terrible truth in Spooks, The Greater Good. And in a similar vein, we now come to Rosewater, the directing debut of the American satirist Jon Stewart, which drops us into the Kafkaesque environment of modern-day Iran.
Are you here for business or pleasure?
I'm a journalist. I'm covering the elections for Newsweek magazine.
Gail Garthia Bernal is Mazia Bahari, a London-based Iranian journalist who falls foul of the Ahmadinejad regime during the disputed election of 2009. And Kim Bodnia is Rosewater, the state interrogator, determined to arrive at his own twist on the truth.
Who are you working for? The CIA? Newsweek? MI6? Where's Anton Chekhov?
Anton Chekhov? The playwright?
Peter, Bahari's arrest was prompted in part by a jokey interview that he gave to The Daily Show. Does this make Jon Stewart's film a kind of act of atonement?
I'm not sure it's exactly that. I think what Stewart brings to it is a sense that, well, it was part of the terrible, nauseous black comedy of tyranny in the first place, and that you have got to be careful with irony and satire because sometimes people don't get it, especially when the idea of that kind of irony is premised on the whole idea of not getting it, and the audience gets it, but the dumb people, the reactionaries, don't get it. But if the dumb people and the reactionaries are the ones in charge, and if they are given to throwing you in prison without trial, then you really have got a problem.
And if your joke is saying they're dumb, ignorant people, then you're doubly in trouble.
To some extent, although some of it is about saying that America is ignorant and dumb as well. But of course, Iran is not going to pick up on that, or at any rate, the Revolutionary Guard is not going to pick up on that. But what I think Jon Stewart does very well is tease that out into a kind of Kafkaesque black comic situation throughout the entire movie. It's a very difficult trick to pull off, actually. It's not simply to be indignant and scandalised and outraged, but to absorb the note of absurdity into the whole movie, and I think he does it very well. It reminded me of...
This is the thing, isn't it? Because people have been, I think, slightly let down by this because they were expecting a kind of real rip-roaring, hells-a-popping satire from it. But actually, the situation is inherently blackly comic.
I thought so, and I think the little flecks of irony in the dialogue were very well managed. It's interesting. There's an interesting cameo from Haluk Bilginer as his father, who was the lead in Winter Sleep, the Cannes Palme d'Or winner, which is interesting, his own father's relationship with the security services, which is interesting. I really knew nothing about it before this film. But I think this is a very, very competent, creditable debut from Jon Stewart. I mean, Jon Stewart seems to go from strength to strength. I mean, he's become this virtual liberal icon now, and a lot of people wondered whether this was kind of going to go wrong for a bit. But I don't think it has gone wrong. I think it's gone very right, actually.
It goes more right when it goes into the cell. I found the early scenes a little bit clunky.
Yeah, maybe.
A bit of too much kind of expository dialogue in there, and the kind of just the sort of hackneyed crowd scenes and that felt I'd seen many times before. Yeah. But the prison scenes have a definite kind of undertow of surrealism to them.
Yes, I think they do. And basically he brings it under control, basically, because he's a studio-based guy, and I think he can bring it under control with that single interior location. Yes, I think that's a fair point.
Use their weakness.
They locked you up, but you're still free.
118 days worth of questions in Rosewater. And now it's your turn to interrogate the honoured guests. Catherine, what is the most hostile reaction to a film that you've witnessed?
Well, I think Cannes has a real track record of being an absolute dick to films. I would choose The Brown Bunny, which is the Vincent Gallo road movie. People jeered and left the endless flapping of seats and hollered, and mostly through the kind of enormously long and definitely quite boring, bits where he's on the bike. And then the few people that were left for the 12-minute blowjob, I don't know, that I can't really remember. I just remember it being a cacophony of noise and being a bit shocked. And it makes you very, very xenophobic because you think, well, these Dutch people next to me, can they shut up for a bit?
Yeah, I would say Antichrist from Cannes, which again had the clitorectomy, which people were kind of furious about, but mostly at the end when he dedicates the film to Tarkovsky on the end credits, which the clitorectomy, they're like, oh, we'll give that a pass. But exactly. Tarkovsky, they went berserk.
There's another film that should have got a bad reaction, but didn't. It got a reaction for me. Is a terrible film by Pupi Avati, the now extinct volcano, really, of classic Italian cinema, called Il Cuore Altrove, or The Heart Is Elsewhere. A terrible film. I know I sat there seething with rage and thinking, well, I want to boo and throw things at the screen, but I can't because that's the sort of dick thing that people do. So I will just have to deal with it. I will just have to.
Good.
And
well done, Peter.
I did. I restrained myself. I don't even think I reviewed it because people were just not interested in it, and I couldn't believe how this film had got into competition.
Next question, jumping ahead a little, where do you think cinema will be in 50 years' time?
Oh God, I think it will be really, really splintered into niche stuff. You might possibly see the Netflixization of all feature filmmaking. They will be marketed to subscribers on the basis of genre, and then the filmmaker would move on. And I think we will still rely on huge tentpoles to carry theatrical releases. And I think cinema going as a live event will survive because live events have, in fact, paradoxically survived the web and, in fact, become stimulated by the web, because that's the one thing you can't download, you can't pinch it.
And Catherine, best or most significant childhood memories associated with cinema?
I went to see Far and Away at the Wimbledon Odeon when I was about 11. And I found it so exciting, the end scene, that I hyperventilated and had to be taken to hospital. So that, I think,
Really?
yeah, I loved that film when I saw it. Absolutely loved it. And I just found it very, very gripping and engaging and captivating, and so much I had to be hospitalised.
This didn't put you off cinema, though, being hospitalised?
No, it was part of the rush, you know, the brown paper bag. And I always take one along now, just to get off on it.
Calibrator.
Yeah.
And that's it. We've spilled the beans, sung like canaries, and run right out of breath. And all that remains is to mention that the film show now takes a brief hiatus while the crack Guardian film team decamps to the Cannes Film Festival. Plenty of coverage coming from there in the coming weeks. But rest assured that the film show returns to this very sofa 3 weeks from now.
Would you like to marry me? I've never asked anyone before.
No. I should hope not.